Hackers and hackerettes, developers and developerettes, welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to be doing something completely new, which we'll be building a micro PHP framework that we can use. And if you want to whip up a fast API or like a very tiny website that like loads one or two static pages or something like that. So for these really small projects, you do not need something heavy as Laravel or Symfony or something like that. So we're going to be actually creating a tiny framework. Think of it like Flask for Python versus like if we say Laravel is like Django, then our micro framework is going to be something like Flask and probably something that is even smaller than Flask. Because we wanted like for people that want to whip up maybe like a proof of concept or something like really quickly. But the twist is we're actually going to do it with AI. So we're going to use Cloud Code in order to get it to build that framework. So we'll be learning two things here. We're going to be learning like how to quality check what Claude has written. And then we're going to teach Claude how to quality check himself. Or itself. I guess we're gonna be saying himself a lot right now. Anyway, so we're gonna learn these things, and then we are going to learn how to deal with Claude Code, and actually how to build a framework. Because we're gonna read the code that Claude provides us, and then we're gonna test it together. It's gonna be probably like a long video, so like giddy up for the ride, you know. We're going to start by actually creating a new directory. So we're going to call it Batframe. I actually took a while thinking about the name. And Batframe is the best. Batframe, you know how Batman has all of his tools starting with Bat, like the Batarang, the Batmobile, the Bat computer, the Bat belt. I don't know. So yeah, we're gonna be using it Batframe for Bat framework. All right. So we created the general structure that we will be working in. Completely empty. And then we are actually going to start Claude right here. So I'm just going to write Claude. I do have a subscription, a max subscription. So one MCP server needs authentication, whatever. I don't care about that right now. So I do have Claude Max, but I believe like using a normal Claude subscription is going to be fine as well. Okay. So we are actually going to change, before we do anything, we're going to change the manual mode to be plan mode. Okay. Now, if you don't know what these are my usages. So these are, I like have 39% tokens left or usage left in 5 hours. If you don't know how to do that, you can just type /status line and then just follow Claude's instructions there in order to like check or like generate something that is similar to this. Okay, so we're actually going to start with the prompt. So the initial prompt, what we need to do, this is a completely new project. There is no like code for Claude Code to learn from or to integrate itself in. So the initial prompt is one of the most important because it's going to direct like the entire project. I'm saying this from experience because I have created projects from scratch with Claude multiple times. So this means that the initial prompt essentially just dictates the entire project. And you need to understand that Claude, it looks like it's super smart, but actually Claude is as smart as the prompts that you give it. So the more information or the more correct information that you give Claude, the much smarter it's actually going to become. You need to treat Claude, first you need to forget that it's smart, completely forget that. And then you need to treat it as a kid, as like a small baby that has just been born in the world, especially in a new project like this, because it knows nothing. It only has a big repository of information that it can reference, which is the model training essentially. But you need to understand that it does not know anything as of now, and we need to guide it where exactly to look in the big repository that he has. Okay, enough talking. Let's actually get into prompting. So the very first thing we're going to do is make it into plan mode. You can do that by hitting Shift and Tab in order to swap between different modes, and I'm going to stay on plan mode. Why? Plan mode is essentially a way for me to tell Claude, do not execute anything until I have proven your plan of execution. If you let Claude just immediately jump into writing code, it might misunderstand you just because the prompt is bad or because just Claude is hallucinating. After all, it's just AI, by the way. So do not treat it as like a brain that actually thinks and analyzes. It is AI. Okay. So making it in plan mode or starting with plan mode completely negates that, because you will actually see Claude's idea or Claude's plan of execution, and you can immediately detect where it's wrong and then refine that plan with Claude until the plan is 100% accurate, and then it can get into jumping. You're gonna or like into coding instead of jumping into coding from the start. So with this workflow, you will have much better results, and I'm speaking from experience. Trust me, bro. Okay. So we're going to start by initially giving it a prompt, and the very first thing we need to do is actually tell it what this is. So we're going to start by writing, this project is going to be a PHP composer package. Essentially, we want to build a micro framework very similar to Flask or to Python Flask. The reason behind that is we want to give an alternative framework to developers that want to initiate or start or create a really quick / small in scope API and / or static website. A project that is too small for Laravel, Symfony, and other... Is that even how you write Symfony? Actually, I think this is the correct way of writing Symfony. So Laravel, Symfony, and other well-established frameworks should be perfect for our micro framework that we are trying to build. The micro framework is named Batframe, a playful name using Batman and how he names his widgets by starting them with bat, like Batarang, Batmobile, so on. And then the word frame for framework. Okay, so now we made it understand the name, so it might actually use that in like a README, or it's going to use that in Claude.md, which we're going to talk about soon. Okay, and what else we could give it? The overall structure of the framework should be extendable by the developer should it need to, but it should also work out of the box using default configurations. Being a tiny framework means that it should be super easy to use and super minimal in code or like code wise. The overall I already wrote the overall structure. So the idea that I have in mind, and I could be wrong, so correct me where necessary, that we can have the entire project in one file, where each function or method, if we're going the OP route, could represent an endpoint on the system. Similar to how Flask has. Oh, the at here is a way to reference files. That's why I'm not going to use it. So like, I'm not going to do the syntax, but we're going to like reference to it. So similar to how Flask has app.route decorator above functions, we could essentially have the same concept in our micro framework, but the route is inferred from the name of the function / method. I actually haven't thought if we want to make it OOP, like force classes and stuff like that. I think for something micro, but even if it's micro, I believe we're going to have a bunch of things that are going to be related. So I think OOP is going to be fine. So like we're going to have a bunch of classes, like for example, a class that represents the entire application. And then we could have like a class for the developer that extends the application, like the main class. And then creating functions in there could represent different endpoints instead of like creating routes. And then from there, the developer has full control over doing whatever they want. So the general idea that I have in mind is a global class or like a main class that the developer can extend into their own class, and then whatever method exists in that class, whatever public method that exists in this class should be treated as an endpoint / route. Okay, so this is starting to take shape right now. Like we're going into the technical weeds. I know this might be boring for you, but this is I think the most important step in this entire project is actually making Claude understand what we want it to do. Okay, so we have this idea. Let's also introduce some helper classes that the user, that the developer can use to facilitate their work. Example, a JSON or like a request class that the user or that the application bootstraps for the user or for the developer, where they can access incoming request details like headers, body, and so on. A response class where they can return HTML, JSON, and a rendered file. For the templating engine, let's use Blade, same as Laravel, because it's really good and really simple to use. This is it. This is actually it. Ask me any questions that you think I have missed in this technical documentation. Let's get building. You know, you gotta hype it up. You don't actually gotta hype it up, but just saying. So this is a really long prompt, but this is, in my opinion, a good prompt because it gives us like a solid, or gives, not us actually, but gives Claude a solid foundation for the end goal. So we're gonna let it cook for a bit. So it's gonna now detect that we are actually in an empty project. and that this is going to be like an like starting from scratch. To keep up with what Claude is doing, I'm actually going to go into work and then projects, and then I'm gonna code Batframe. This is gonna open the project in VS Code. I know, I'm using light mode, yes, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna keep this open here because I want to look through the code that, like eventually when Claude gets into coding, I want to actually see the code as it gets written. And also we're gonna create a project that uses Batframe as a package, and we're gonna like run a project, an API, and a sending out static HTML. Okay. The project directory is empty. This is a true greenfield build. Okay, there's no existing code. So let me put important ones in front of you. Invalid tool parameter. Great start. There we go. Okay. Maybe you cannot see this in the recording, so I'm going to highlight it. How should a public method map on HTTP verb plus route path? This is the single biggest developer experience decision. You can pick a base style. I'll design it to be extensible either way. So the only problem is that inferred from name, pure name, convention only, convention plus attribute override, pure name, convention only, attributes only, PHP 8. No, we're not going to use attributes. We want something really simple. So we're going to do like pure name convention. That's it. Blade 1, dependency free. Real Blade Laravel. So a single class, zero dependency engine with around 99% identical Blade syntax. True to the micro philosophy, are wrapped behind a swappable interface. Or we can use the actual Blade. Pulls in several Laravel packages, making the framework noticeably heavier. We're going to go with Blade 1. I actually never heard of Blade 1, but I guess we're about to right now. So request response, PSR 7, interoperable standard. So we could have like custom simple objects, PSR 7, interoperable standard. Honestly, we're just going to go custom simple objects. So v1 scope, middleware pipeline plus env plus config. Of course, we want that. And we do have static asset plus page serving. Serve a public directory for assets. Map plane blade files to routes for the planes that use case you mentioned. Yep. A bat console command to spin up new project skeleton, and a dev server. Nice DX but more surface area. No, we don't want that. We just want things to be super simple. We're not even gonna do middleware pipeline for now. Okay. Even though it says recommended even in v1, like right here. I think we might just skip it. Actually, this is going to be good. So we're going to skip it. We're going to see what Claude presents us. And then we could add this feature on top of what Claude is going to give us. Okay. So this is the answers. You can just review them. We're going to submit the answers right here. And let's see what Claude is going to tell us. So it's still thinking, so it's gonna like evaluate everything that we've told us so far, and it's gonna come back with a plan. Now our job will be to actually read the plan really well, because reading the plan, understanding what Claude will do, is going to be critical. Because if we just approve the plan and then we found out that this is not what we want, it's gonna be kind of hard to like reel Claude back, and it just wastes unnecessary tokens. Almost done thinking. This right here, in case you were wondering, this is the context window before each chat has to be compacted by Claude. This is my 5 hours usage in Claude, but this is my 7 days usage. You can do that by doing /status line. I actually don't remember if I mentioned that or not, but here I did. Drink some water, hydrate if you haven't. Most minimal, most magic. That's exactly what we want. Disable auto copy in config. I might actually do that, but or maybe auto copy is cool. I don't know. We'll see. No middleware, no CLI scaffolding. If you don't know what CLI is, it is command line interface. I actually forgot there for a sec. The code base is empty, greenfield, so there's nothing to explore. I have everything I need. Let me write the plan. Now, I'm not gonna edit these parts because I want you to actually experience the entire thing. That's how I would want to watch it myself, because it lets me like be in the moment as we are working. Okay, so we're gonna start reading now. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller so you can actually read it better. So ready to code, here's called Batframe, a Flask-like PHP framework. Context: there's no PHP microframework that fills the gap between single index.php script and full-stack frameworks like Laravel Symfony. For a tiny API, most of those frameworks are heavy, overkill. Okay. Batframe fills that gap, a developer extends, and each method becomes an HTTP endpoint whose route is inferred from its name, flasks at app.route. But the route is derived from the method name instead of a decorator. Works out of the box with zero config, and every moving part is swappable. Cool. This is a greenfield build. The working directory is my directory here. Deliverable is a composer package, batframe/batframe, plus a runnable example. Awesome. Design decisions locked with the user, routing, templating, request response, v1 scope, v1 excludes. We're going to come back to that. But I think the plan is pretty good so far. So we're not going to edit anything, at least up to this point. Okay, so the routing convention. A developer subclasses Batframe and defines the public methods. On run, Batframe reflects the subclass, builds a route table, matches the incoming request, and dispatches. This all sounds pretty good. Verb plus path derivation from the method name. The method name must begin with a recognized HTTP verb, get, post, put, patch, delete, head options. It forgot the new query HTTP method, but we can skip that for now. That prefix sets up the HTTP protocol. The remaining Pascal case words are split on case boundaries, lowercase and joined with slashes. So let's actually see that we didn't actually tell it about that, but this becomes awesome. So get users is get/users. Now get user profile is get user profile. Awesome. Post users. And then index a special case get slash. So get index also maps to slash. Awesome. No auto pluralization. The path comes literally from the words in the name. Awesome. Decision to flag. A public method that does not start with a recognized verb is treated as an internal helper and is not routed. This is awesome. All of the users' own examples use verb. Okay. Route parameters from method. From type scalar int becomes placeholder path segments. Okay, perfect. So appended in declare. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask about the dynamic parameters, but it looks like it already figured it out for us. We didn't even have to tell it, and this is why I say Claude is smart. But because we give it a solid foundation, it actually filled in the gaps. And this is also very important. A very important reason why we use the plan mode. Imagine if you just let it work and you actually didn't want this. We wanted like to do it something else. Like get user and then param, like the word param and then like something else, for example. So then it would swap param with an actual parameter. It's stupid, and this is actually much better. But I'm just saying, like if it was like that and we wanted it to be like that, Cloud would have just assumed this and already started working based on it. Okay. So dispatch outcome. So this is actually like pretty good. This is awesome. We do want that. So the package structure. This is actually pretty important for us. So we do have a source parameter or like source folder. We do have composer.json, which is fine and very important for composer packages. Batframe.php, base app class, devs extend, holds run plus dispatch, helpers.php. We have a bunch of files, routing, HTTP, view engine, blade1 engine, and then support. We have tests, which we did not tell it to do, but it looks like it added tests, which is also pretty good. I'm not going to complain. We have an example, runnable demo app also serves as the skeleton readme sample. Perfect. We also didn't tell about this part, but it's again filling in the gaps. We have views, we have pages, auto-routed static blade pages. Awesome stuff. So namespace, Batframe, PSR4, Batframe source, PHP floor 8.1. Okay. So it ignored our 8.3 like minimum and it did 8.1. But I think 8.1 is really good right here because it does have like it is the minimum that has everything that we need for the app to work. Okay. Even though it like ignored my instructions, this is a better plan than ours and I do not mind it. So it looks like it's still going. Batframe base class, request static capture. So it has like all the methods, giving you all the methods it's gonna use. But I don't want to read this in a plan. I actually want to see it in the code. So I'm actually gonna skip all of that. Okay, so awesome. Here we're gonna bootstrap, vendor autoload, and then app run. So this is like gonna be in the index.php. So this is in the example. Okay, so this is all already done for us. So here in the app, we are extending Batframe. So index is gonna return a response view, home view, and then name equals world. And then it looks like it's gonna like put hello world. So this is passing data into our views, which is something that we also didn't tell it about. JSON automatically, awesome. So an array of data is gonna be converted to JSON. Things that we also didn't tell it about, but it figured it out on its own. So composer to JSON, like key parts, we have PHP unit as a dev, PHP 8.1, blade1 as the templated engine, and php.env to support .env files. Critical files, okay, verification, out of scope. It looks like everything is cool to me. Now, I'm gonna actually, since I approved everything in the plan, I will not select manually approve edits. I'm actually gonna let it do auto mode. So right now, our job is to actually wait and let it cook, literally. I think the plan that Claude did for us is actually pretty good. Super good. Okay, so PHP 8.4 and Composer 2.9 are available. Set up task tracking. These are what are installed on my local machine. This is why it says this. These are the available things. So here's gonna give you like a task list of things that it's going to do, a way for you to keep track of what part of the plan that Claude suggested and we approved is being worked on at the moment. So the very first thing it's going to do is scaffold composer.json plus the package structure, which is the different files. HTTP layers, so request response HTTP exception. I don't know why it says invalid tool parameters here. It doesn't look like it's failing. It's just working. Build routing engine, view layer, support, and then 4 other things. So here we can just watch as it cooks. Okay, it looks like we do have a HTTP exception. It might be bright for you. Let's use Atom 1 dark here because I actually like that. Open in agents. Open in agents. Go away. I will not open in agents. Okay. So it looks like it already framed. I hope this is better in the recording. I think it is. So it looks like it did composite the JSON correctly. So we have a bunch of keywords. Let me enable word wrapping so we don't have to exceed that width. Require div autoload Batframe source. This is correct. It's loading helpers.php. Did not create yet. Scripts, we have test as a script. Pretty good. Let's look at the HTTP exception. An exception that carries an HTTP status code. Throw it from a handler to upload the request with a specific status. Throw new HTTP exception 403. Cool. We also have a message. Awesome. Message equals empty message or response.phrase. Where's this phrase coming from? It's coming from the response, which is here. Use of unknown class view engine. The view engine used by response view, bound once by the app at boot. We don't have a view engine yet. Factories, a JSON response, arrays, JSON serialize, and scalars are all encoded. So flags. JSON escaped slashes. JSON unescaped Unicode or unescaped slashes, sorry. So if you don't know what this is, it's a pipe with an equal sign. So that means the flags are gonna get it's gonna have this exact same thing. So whatever is in flags already, you're just gonna append to it these things. So response headers, content type, return response, HTML. Then we have text. It just returns like plain text. This is the response factory, which is great. Great stuff. So we do have a redirect, which returns a redirect. All of these things are things we didn't tell Claude about in our initial prompt. But our initial prompt was super clear in what was the end goal that we're trying to achieve. So this is why we are getting like really good results right now. So get headers, get body, the final body, rendering a pending view if necessary. Send, emit the status line, headers, and body to the client. Normalize header name. Content type. Guess content type. Phrase, okay. Looks like we have some pretty robust stuff going on. Now, I'm just reviewing like randomly because I want to get a feel for the quality of the code. Okay. So it looks like it created a match route class. The result of a successful route match, the route and the raw path values captured from the request path. Okay. Let's actually take a look at the request. Looks like we have a bunch of things. So whenever we're constructing the request, we are given in the method, a path, query, post, headers, raw body, server, files, and cookies, which is important. So we're trying to capture the request right here. Capture header, normalize path. unknown parameter file. Okay, it looks like this is called key, but this is called file. Also, why is it an array? And this is a string key. This looks like incorrect to me, but we'll see. So we went through the response already. Support, let's look at the config right here. So get if array key exists key this items, return this items key, value this items, explode dot is array and array exists, return default. Pretty good. So it's handling like the dot notation. Setting has an all. So here if self loaded return .env class is directory path .env create immutable safe load. Okay, so this is using the .env package that we included in our composer.json, which is this one. View engine, so it has a render. So this is like an abstract interface, or like the interface that all view engines are going to use, and currently we only have one, which is Blade 1 engine. This is what it meant, if you remember in the plan. It's going to be swappable by an interface. So we could like change the, or like create our own engine essentially. Maybe that's a cool idea that we could expand upon in this like in this API or in this framework, sorry, not API. Maybe we could like create our own engine. All right. So we have a Batframe, which is the main class that you will be extending. So it even created like an exception rendering and each like error pages and stuff like that. Insane stuff. I love it. All of these things we did not we did not explicitly tell it, but it figured it out because we gave it some hints that we're trying to build a micro framework. So the word framework like made Claude search for current frameworks and how they behave. We mentioned Laravel and Symfony, so it tried to like check the essentially check like the common features that a framework would need, and it's still super simple compared to like something as heavy. So we are still adhering to our sample of super simple super simple framework that we would use in like very small applications. So this is our app. So this is essentially like our one file that would essentially use to create. Get boom. I like that. Sorry, I'm a bit sleepy. It's 9 a.m. and I haven't slept yet, so forgive me for that. Get boom demonstrates error handling with app debug equals true. You get a detailed page, otherwise a generic 500. Delete user, and then delete user ID, and then we return response no content. Wonderful stuff. Absolutely wonderful. So we do have a cache. This cache is essentially when Blade renders a file. And then even like added layouts and stuff. We never talked about that. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely wonderful. Public index. The single front controller points your web server's document root here, or points your web server's document root here. So it essentially just goes into vendor, it loads our app, and then it just runs our app. So it goes here, it goes into our app and calls the run method, which I'm pretty sure it just is a method on Batframe. So if I go here and then I search for run, there it is. Captures the requests and then handles the request. Let me run a final validation path. Composer validate the full test suite once more and confirm no stray server stuff and the README mirrors it as a quick start. Wonderful. A complete composer package, Batframe, implementing a Flask-like PHP microframework. Each public method is this. Decisions worth flagging this. Okay. So right now we do have a sample or like an example, and we do have a framework essentially. Even though we didn't like review the entire code, but we have been keeping up with what Claude is doing, and it looks like it has done like an awesome job. Here's the thing: create a test project, one level above this framework project folder. In that test project, include Batframe as a dependency, as if we are installing it from scratch, or as if we're using it as a developer. Also, let's include, actually, you know what? Can we, or no, what I want to do is include an installer, kind of like how Laravel has like a Laravel new and then install like a project. I want to include something like Batframe new and then project, and then it would include like the project and then a CLI tool that we could use to like serve the project, for example, like creates an internal PHP server or something like that, which we can use to open up the server. But before we do that, before we like get any complicated, let's actually start the example. So I'm going to open up like a thing here. I'm going to go into an example. And then we're going to do, we're going to go to public. And we are going to do PHP and then index.php. So it's going to run it once, and it looks like it is returning our page right here. I'm going to do PHP tag s, and then we're going to do index.php. Or actually like localhost. Actually, how do I run a PHP server? I completely forgot how to run a local PHP server. Can we run, or give me the command to run a local PHP server that would serve the example project for me to test. PHP tag s. Okay, so it is tag s. Oh, but it's probably just the tag t, which is like the document root, I guess. Localhost 8000, but let's do it like 4002. because I probably have stuff running on 8000 right now. So example public. So we're going to start that and look at that. We get our framework. So let's go to /users. Definitely not where we want to go. And we get a JSON response back. Wonderful. So if I go to example and then we go to the app, you can see that we are running the get users thing. But if we do user like 1, we get ID 1, user 1. Let's do 5. It just returns whatever ID we pass in here. Awesome stuff. What if we do like a string name like that? So this is going to return a 405 method not allowed. But then we could do like test. Okay. And then we're not using the name here. So instead, we could replace that with name. I can refresh it here. And there we go. I hope this is clear enough in the recording. Okay, so we have this, which looks pretty simple to use. This is looking like really good so far. Let's see, post users. So we could post a user with a request. So request input name and default to anonymous. And then it's just going to give us a created. Let's try it out. So I'm going to do a curl tag x post. And then we are going to do HTTP localhost 4002. And then we're going to post to users endpoint. Okay. And then we are going to do a tag h content type application JSON. And then tag d of name Michael, which is me. Run it, and then it's going to give us created Michael, which essentially just ran this thing. Now we could run it without passing in a name. So let's pass it like empty. And then it's going to give us created empty. Okay, so the default here is not handling the case if the value is empty, which, to be fair, good enough. So we could run it without anything, and then it's going to give us anonymous. Okay, perfect. Perfect. And then we can delete the user. So here we could do delete, but then we could give it an ID because it expects a user ID, and then it returns like nothing. So response no content, it just returns us nothing. I believe we can see that with stack I. Because it's gonna like print the headers, the response headers, and then you can see the response header 204 no content. This is wonderful stuff, like absolutely awesome stuff. And then we have boom. So it returns or throws a new runtime exception. Let's test that in here by doing boom. We get 500 internal server error. And then here something went wrong on purpose. Okay, so this is not being executed because we don't have a .env. So if we do that in .env and then we refresh, we actually get a detailed error page with something went wrong on purpose here. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. I hope you're starting to see the power of AI right now, because this thing is actually beautiful. We do have a format name that I don't even know where we're using. It has 0 references, so we're not even using that at all. So let's actually do format or this format name on the name in the post request. Okay. So we're gonna do that, and then this should give me anonymous with a capitalized A, But then let's test it like ourselves. So name is going to be Michael, something weird like that. And then it capitalized the first letter, but it did not touch the rest, which is what UC first does. But we could just pass in str to lower, like right here, which should give us only the capital M. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think this is absolutely wonderful. In like, what, 40 minutes? Less than 40 minutes? We solved a real gap in I don't know, PHP development or something. I actually do not know if there's something else that does this exact thing. I'm actually going to publish this as a composer package. I'm going to include a link to this YouTube video in the package itself so you actually see the process of building it. I might do like further videos on adding new features and stuff like that. We're probably going to do stuff manually, or we're going to do it through AI. Like we're gonna see, it depends really on the feature, but I hope you see now like how strong and how powerful AI is, how cool and how fast it could build things. But then again, one more important thing you should understand is how needed engineers are, because if we did not direct it like in the direct like path, I guess, like in the correct direction, it could have like hallucinated and made up stuff that is weird. Because we know what we want, we know how the end results are going to be, even though our like prompt is not 100% like covering all of the details, but we also because we read the plan that Claude gave us, and that it is like we read the plan and we understood what it wanted us to, what it wanted to do, and we actually approved it. That's why we just let it do its thing, like using auto mode without us like manually approving each edit, because we do know what it's building by reading the plan and understanding it. If non-technical people like read that, they will probably not understand anything, and will just approve whatever Claude throws at them. And this is not good because it can and it will hallucinate, especially like in this project. It's just started from scratch. It was like evergreen or a green field, like it called the project. But imagine a project that is already existing. If you do not know what Claude is adding to this project, is slowly but surely is gonna build up like redundancies and things that are repeated, especially if you're not keeping like a good context and your Claude MD is not being up to date, or it's not really like being useful to Claude. So it's gonna like try to make up decisions on its own, and if you do not understand the technicalities behind it, it's gonna get messy real fast. AI is really powerful. I don't think it's gonna take engineering jobs, at least not yet, because it still needs engineering directions. The final thing that I'm going to do is actually I'm going to run /init. /init is going to actually read the code that we have right now. And then it's going to create a Claude MD instructions file. So whenever we start a new session with Claude in this project, it's going to have a lot of context reading the instructions file. All right. We do have a git ignore, but we do not have a git we do not have a git repo initialized, but we're gonna take care of that. I'm gonna publish this. I just want you to read the Claude MD file. There it is. So this is gonna be the basic recap of the project. So here, commands install, run the full suite, run a single test file, validate composer, architecture, the naming convention, extensions, themes, the swappable view engine conventions, so on. So I give it like a bunch of things. So here is how things should look like if you wanna like run it. Or sorry, this is for Claude. So whenever we start a new session for Claude, it's actually gonna read this claude.md and gonna understand what the project is about. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did like making it. I'm gonna leave links to this project once it's launched on Composer. And maybe that's actually worth a video on its own. Yeah, so I'll probably just record a video of me pushing this to GitHub and then publishing it on Composer, or like on Packagist as a Composer package. And yeah, stay tuned for that one. I will see you in the next one.